Thanks so much for coming on Movers and Shakers Unlimited and talking about this film. First, of course, I got to talk a little wrestling with you. So with that being said, I'm aware that you've been at it wrestling for such an extensive period of time, such a body of work, and it was a block of time in which you took a hiatus, and there were quite a few things that you did in that amount of time, especially being part of AAA. I understand. So can you talk a bit about having that time away and quote unquote kind of getting refreshed before returning back to into what you were doing before?
Back to WWE. I was gone for almost 9 years, for 8 years, which is a lot longer than I had originally intended. I left at the end of 2011 thinking I was going to take a year or two, and in that year or two, I'll make a movie, and then I'll come back. I realized, first of all, that movies take longer than a year or two to make, especially from my idea was I'm going to take my pen out and then start writing, and then in a year or two later, it'll be in theaters. No, that's not what happens. So I ended up spending 5 years making Boone the Bounty Hunter, and I'm glad that I did, because it's my two loves in life have been wrestling and action movies. And during that time away, it's I left WWE, but I never left wrestling.
Right.
And I feel like it really expanded my idea of sports entertainment, wrestling, the business in general. I mean, there's probably 40 guys on the roster now that I've wrestled different places, outside WWE, from your Garzas to your Kevin Steen to Killer Cross to Hijo de Fantasma, or his name now, Pablo Escobar. But so many guys like that. And I feel like being exposed to independent wrestling and the psychology and pace and culture is different there than it is in WWE. And it's different in AAA in Mexico as it is in WWE. And same, you can say, for 5-star wrestling and the stuff that I did in the UK. So that a lot of people get when they start, but I didn't, because I started by winning Tough Enough. So the 8 years was really important for me to define who I am in the ring, who I am as a man. And if you don't have those answers, wrestling is a very tricky biz, because you can be fantastic, but you'll never quite click or relate unless you know who you are, what you want, and who you are in the ring. And that, I feel like, is the most important thing that I got out of those 8 years while I was away.
Awesome. And as you were mentioning before, you talked about your loves being not just wrestling, but action films. And in terms of the contemporaries that you've had over the course of that career in wrestling, a lot of them, as you know, have gone on and done a lot of acting as well, whether it's Cena and many others. So, I have to ask, outside of wrestling, that trajectory into doing film, was that always something that you foresee for yourself, or was it something that happened serendipitously where you saw, this is a possibility, maybe I should try this out, give it a shot?
Well, I was a film major at UC Davis, and so before I even really started wrestling, I was doing kung fu, gymnastics, breakdancing, and jiu-jitsu, and studying a lot of things. And I made a bunch of movies. The Foot of Death is one of them. The Journeys of Julie, which actually is a violent kung fu movie. Kung Fu. But it's something that's been kind of a lifelong dream of mine to get into. And with the success of guys like Cena, The Rock, Batista, and Randy Orton's been in a lot of stuff too, and he's actually, I think, really strong screen presence.
Yes.
But it's actually been really nice. And my partner, The Miz, is killing it. He's all over the place. It's been really nice, because I feel like the public perception of wrestlers as entertainers has a little bit more clout these days, based on especially The Rock. I mean, like that guy is like the biggest box office draw arguably in the world right now. So the three of us um, come to be friends, in my opinion, as opposed to just guys working together talking about ideas. And it started to become really important to me to actually do something with these guys, make something instead of just writing, because we have a ton of stuff on paper that we want to do, but the actual filmmaking process is like a different beast. So they pitched me The Speed of Time. I loved it. The idea was, let's highlight Russ's writing, Will's writing and directing, and my action design and acting. And that was the genesis of it. And I'm pretty proud of it. I think it's the strongest thing that I've done. We got into 30 festivals. Most of them were postponed because of the pandemic, but we just started kind of getting into some that were going to be in March that just happened recently.
Okay.
I got nominated for Best Actor at Genre Blast Film Festival in Winchester, Virginia, which
Nice.
feels pretty cool.
Yeah.
So like it's pretty cool to be recognized outside of wrestling for I don't know, for something in film that I've been a fan of and have had a lot of love for a long time. And the last thing I'll say about it is, I got to give, first of all, I got to give big ups to Ziegler, like Nick Nemeth, for flying out on his day off to do that fun scene with me. It was really cool working with acting coach, and I've just always had a lot of respect for her. When she walks into the room, I usually am like, okay, I gotta act good now because McCole's here. You know what I mean? I'm like, she's just really good, and she levels you up. Sean Marquette, of course, Alex Jennings. The cast was awesome. The stunt coordinator, Brady Romberg, did Boone with me. He's a cousin of mine and a really close friend. And the VFX guy, Chris Clements, I think without him, The Speed of Time would not look anywhere near the way that it does. He was on set with us and is just very talented. And he's in this weird niche where I would say he understands action and visual effects. And there's a lot of visual effects guys that don't specifically understand action. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
They can make it. But like he'll train with us, and like he just, it saves a lot of time to have him on set, because if we're explaining, we want to have like the cause and effect in one shot, basically Jackie Chan style. We want to see a punch and the hit in the shot. Then that's all you have to say, and he gets it, as opposed to someone else's solution is like, well, why don't you just shoot and then we cut and then we see the guy getting shot. And you're like, technically that works. That's filmmaking.
Right.
But it's lazy. Or it's not even lazy. It's just not what I like. I like the visual gags, like the Buster Keaton, the Charlie Chaplin, the Jackie Chan, where you can see the action unfold. Is that's what I like. That's the skill. I think that, and it's worth it when you can pull that off.
Definitely. And just like you were saying, you were talking about that marriage of action and all the various team members that you have working in the film to establish that finished product. Oftentimes when you are hearing about a given actor taking on a project, especially if it's something that we're not used to seeing them in, like say if it's an actor who does a lot of indie films and doesn't necessarily do a lot of tentpole pictures, it's an adjustment for them to do the action piece, because maybe they don't really do a whole bunch of that. A lot of what they do is just, a lot of dramas and not necessarily a lot of action. However, as you were saying, you're in a different category, because with your body of work and your background, experience, you're able to, take other things from your toolbox that allows that marriage to happen. So with that being said, for someone, just like I was giving an example of someone who's like a dramatic actor who's, doing an action film, or perhaps someone who's a comedian who's doing drama, what tools would you say have been what new muscles would you say that have been the most interesting that you've had to bring when you have been doing film versus doing wrestling? Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, but it's a very long answer.
Okay.
I'll touch on a few things. First of all, motions, because you're selling to an arena full of people. Film, I mean, you basically, like, the cliche is like, think big, act small, because it's your eyes basically. Like, if you're on film and I'm sitting here and someone says something and I do that, even that move comes off as like kind of weird and spastic and bad acting. The trick is you have to be completely full of whatever it is. And in the speed of time, it was tiring because I was completely full of like manic energy and like positive craziness the whole time. So it's almost like I was kind of acting by myself, but dealing with Sean Marquette the whole time in a way that makes sense. Like, I'm on my own personal mission and I'm going to bring this guy along with me constantly. But that, like, I guess that's just kind of specifically for speed of time. But in general, like, I think that's the challenge of jumping back and forth between the two mediums is you in film and TV, like, you have to be vulnerable and you have to really feel it. And then you also have to know that
it's reading.
Personally, like, people might not want to see me cry. Do you know what I mean? Clint Eastwood has a famous quote in Bridges of Madison County, where he said it on one of those Inside the Actor studios. He was moved to tears, and instead of like doing what a lot of actors do, and when he's crying, kind of like, I can't believe this is happening to me. Like, he decided instead to like turn his back to the camera and walk away. And that's knowing your audience, because I don't necessarily want to see Clint Eastwood cry. I want to see him get affected, but I don't think I would believe him pouring his heart out and like weeping, you know? So figuring out your specific type, feeling it, and you have to dude, you have to feel it so hard that it hurts and it burns and it makes you crazy sometimes, and then contain it. And then, like, that's just, if you're not doing that, then like you just come off as flat and you're just saying words. There's no intent or emotion. I guess that's the basics of it. And then there's a ton more nuance that you can layer on top of it when you start talking about relationships with other people.
Gotcha. Cool, man. Go ahead.
One more thing about speed of time, since we're talking about it. This is a lighter note, but I've always liked. I grew up on action movies and wrestling, and you saw Speed of Time. There's plenty of wrestling moves in there. We got a couple of stunt guys, Gringo Loco, Danny Limelight, that are wrestlers, and then Jupe Katana, a really talented like traditional stunt guy. And it was cool having that mix, because this didn't even make the movie, but I gave Danny Limelight a Spanish fly off of one of those tables on the beach onto the sand. And I was like, it's so weird. There's like certain things that like wrestlers can do like that. It's in their skill set that stunt guys like don't, and vice versa. Like ghost hits in choreo, I have a hard time remembering that stuff. So if I'm going to do like a 6 to 10 like fight beat sequence with someone like Jupe Katana, it's like he's just like boom boom duck, duck, duck. His pacing is on, and I can get it. Just it takes me a little bit longer.
Gotcha.
It's an interesting juxtaposition, but I like bringing wrestling to movies. I did it in Boone, I did it in this, because it's what I'm best at, and I think people should showcase their best stuff.
Absolutely, man. Well, I know that you got to hop into a whole bunch of other, lineup of interviews. I want to thank you so much for your time hopping on here and talking about the film. Thanks so much. I really do appreciate your time. Take care, man, and be good.
Dude, thank you, man. Great meeting you.
Bye.
Take care.